A very good morning to all my dear students. Mr. Kanal Jain, Pooja, Keshav, Gunjan, Deepak Kumar. Good morning, Shrindi. Lakshita, Vagdevi, Anand Kumar, Deepak Kumar, Rahul, Harshita. A very good morning to all of you students. Mr. Prabhu, a new name today has come up. Achal Singh, Mohammed Sahil Khan, Ziba, Nilesh. Kunal Jain has sent a query to us, and I have read your query before joining the session because I received it around 10:40, and I was appreciating Mr. Kunal Jain, a very genuine question you have asked, and I'll try to explain it to all of the class together. Khushdeep Kaur, I'm fine. Hope you all are also doing great. Sarvas Seni, Adish Shah, Mr. Rahman, Neha Chaudhary. Good morning, children. Ms. Sonali, Soumya, all of you. Ms. Bhumika is also asking something between part delivery of the goods. So Ms. Bhumika, today we'll be covering the chapter of unpaid seller. There again, we'll be discussing about part delivery of good. So your question will get very well justified and answered in that. Ms. Rekha, Shivangi, Adish. So many of you have joined. So let's have a same here, Ms. Priya Pandit. Even I'm glad to have a connection with all of you through this online classes. I'm glad to meet all of you. Pati Mathul, Simran, Adesh, Shanvi, Vaishnavi, Arman. A very good morning, children. So today we'll be doing our last chapter of unpaid seller, and I'm so glad to read those who have written. Ma'am, we can now see the notes. So I appreciate. I hope you can see all the 4 units now: first, second, third, fourth of sale of goods. Everything is uploaded on your website, ICI portal. You can download the notes, presentations from there. And as I always tell you, study material, my presentations, and whatever I'm making you write down during the class right now. That's it. That much is absolutely sufficient. The only thing is, children, the way you send me the queries, ma'am, pass ho jayenge, clear ho jata hai, lengthy to nahi aata hai. The answer to all these kind of, dilemmas and anxious and worries is one simple word: revision. See, when I'm talking to you, you're listening to me, we enjoy studying, we have an interaction, I send you the questions, you give me back the answers, I share the answers with you, and you feel motivated because you're answering right. And even if you're not answering right, Miss Kare Monica, thank you so much, and a very good morning to you. So even if you are answering me wrong, then also the excitement is there because you get to learn something. मैंने पूछा higher purchase, उसमें आएगा नहीं exception, आप yes बोलते हो, आपको पता है वो correct answer है, आप no बोलते हो, reason find out करते हो. So we learn when we are talking. But pass कैसे होते हैं? Pass हम तभी होते हैं जब हम टीचर के साथ सुन लेते हैं. We listen and pay attention with the teacher. We give a dedicated 2 hours of the class when the teachers are online. And in the evening, we sit and open up books. At least 30 minutes have to be given. At least 30 minutes. 30 minutes is not much of the time of your day I'm asking for. 30 minutes revision on the same very day should be done. And after we complete the syllabus, you have to go through each and every line of study material has to be read. Then it becomes fairly justified in your subconscious mind. फिर जाकर आपकी CA 100% clear हो जाती है. Nobody can stop you. And children, foundation, as we say, foundation is laying the कहते हैं ना, किसी भी चीज की शुरुआत करने से पहले फाउंडेशन रखनी पड़ती है. Am I audible? Kindly confirm. So you want me to change the connection, sir, because students are writing that the voice is not very clear. Clear? It's clear now? Okay, Shruti, Rajesh, Sidra, I hope you can confirm me now. Thank you so much, students, for confirming it's clear now. Yes, sir. So you want me to change the connection? I can do that. So is it now clear? Hello? Students, is it clear now? Yes, Monu Singh, Sakshi, Simran, Harsh have all written that ma'am voice is now clear. Thank you, students. I'm glad at least I read. I was just speaking continuously and I don't know whether you have heard it or not. So I'll just repeat in one line what I was telling you. That students, thank you, P. Vishnu, Devansh, Pradindya. I hope now everyone can hear me clearly. So I was just telling you, children, the thumb rule for clearing your CA foundation and stepping into the other steps of CA internet. So can you please mute from IT? So it's very important that you revise your content. And once you have revised, I was saying that at least 30 minutes of the day should be given in the evening to just go through whatever we have discussed in the class. And now let's start with your queries first, and then we will be talking about Manju, Nathan, Harpreet, Neha, Rahul, all of them have written, ma'am, voice is absolutely clear. Mika is also saying, but then Priyanka is again coming up, ma'am, it's not audible. I don't know, some problem at your side then. Mr. Chaitanya is the last one to write, yes, ma'am, it's clear. So I'm assuming now the voice is clear. Children, check your network at your side as well. Okay. Mr. Varun, a happy good morning to you as well. So children, I was just saying you that today we'll be starting with the last chapter of Unpaid Seller. All the presentations are already uploaded on your website. You can download the presentations and go through the study material whenever you are sitting and doing your work. Okay. So now let me open the query which has been raised by Mr. Kunal Jain before we proceed. All right. So question number 3 and question number 6, he is asking what is the difference, why the answers are different in both the cases, how we have to justify whether it is a goods which are specific goods and whether it is an unascertained goods, who will be bearing the risk of loss. So these are the very two good questions that he has picked. Clear? Okay, then I don't know why students are writing that it's not clear. All right. Maybe at their end. All right. All right. So students, I was saying Kunal Jain has raised a question. That question number 3 and 6, he's facing a difficulty. So I give you 2 minutes, first of all, to read question number 3. And without looking into the answers, I want to know as a professional in your context, as per your understanding, what should be the answer for question number 3? I go with what Gunjan Devi has written. Gunjan Devi is the last one to say, ma'am, the voice is clear. I don't know still why Anchita Soria, Keshav Kothari's writing voice is not clear. Children, please check the connection at your end. Even Kunal Jain has written, ma'am, it's absolutely clear. So great, please pay attention. I want all of you to send me the answers for question number 3. Just read what the question is asking and in your context, what should be the answer. Durgesh Gupta is asking page number. We are at the last page of your chapter 3. So page number is not clearly coming over here. Just go to the descriptive questions, Durgesh. Question number 3, we are reading. Mr. S agreed to purchase 100 bales of cotton from Y. So children, who is buyer, who is seller in this respective question? First of all, Mr. S is a buyer and Mr. Y is a, yes, seller. Out of his large stock, that means something is related to bulk, something which is related to uncertain goods, right? So here we should make small notes, points. What are you understanding from this question? So it says out of the large stock, out of this large stock, goods have to be selected by the seller, and this buyer has sent his man to take the delivery of goods. So out of 100 bales of cotton, they could only pack 60 bales, and then a fire occurred. Entire stock means 100 bales of cotton were destroyed, including 60 bales that were already packed. Now you have to tell me who will bear the loss and to what extent. So as per your answer, Harsh Agarwal is saying we will be responsible. Gurleen says S has to bear the loss. Okay, Manvi Khanna, we'll take that question as well. But right now, please send me the answers for this. Shruti says seller will bear the loss as he has only packed 60 bales of cotton. Buyer is not bound to take delivery in installments. Why are you talking about delivery installment? This topic has nothing to do with delivery in installments, child. Just pay attention. Your Miss Shruti, your context of answer is correct, but we have nothing to do with installments over here. I'm not sending you any delivery. In fact, the buyer has sent his men to take the delivery of goods. So installments में तो तब होता अगर मैं कहती 60 बेल्स आज भेज रही हूँ 40 कल, बट वो तो 40 डिस्ट्रॉय ही हो गए ना, सारे के सारे गुड्स डिस्ट्रॉय हो गए. Masoom has written a very elaborative answer. Good, Masoom, that's the correct answer. So Vivek Kumar says seller, Arshdeep says buyer. Avinash is again justified in saying buyer will bear for the 60 bags which are packed. That is good. Saima, again, Mr. S will be responsible. So good, children. Now your answers are coming. That means my voice is 100% clear. That's why you could answer me back. Good. Okay. So all of you have very well tried, children. Now let me teach you why Kunal Jan has raised this question is that let us understand how you have to write the answer in the exam. अब जो लोग तो कह रहे हैं seller bear करेगा, if you give me a reason that okay, buyer was not informed, seller was packing the goods, 100% seller's ownership, seller's property of the goods, he will bear. But here he has clearly written that he has sent his man to pick up the goods and they have packed 60 bales. That means out of the lot, 60 bales of cotton were ascertained. They were unconditionally appropriated. And now it was his responsibility to take the 60 bales immediately. But during this process, only the goods got destroyed. So we have to understand how we have to answer each and every line. So let us go to answer number 3. Study has very elaboratively given the answer, and this is the way I expect my students to write their answers. Definitely you can write it in your own words, but reference to these particular sections. When I say section means these particular topics. So section 26 क्या था? Passing of risk with passing of property. आप simple line उसके बारे में पहले लिखोगे. मत लिखो section नहीं याद, तो आप simple लिख दो. Sale of Goods Act says that goods remain the seller's risk until the property is transferred. तो simple language में हम क्या लिखेंगे? Whosoever has the owner of the goods will bear the risk. If the goods are with the seller, seller is the owner, he will bear the risk. If the ownership is with the buyer, the goods are of buyer, buyer will bear the risk. But section 23 में हमने एक line पढ़ी थी that for the sale of uncertain goods, very good. Now he is telling you that this is the sale of uncertain goods. ये हमें कहाँ से पता लगा? वो bulk large stock में से जो हमने उठाना था वहां से हमें पता लगा. This is the sale of uncertain goods. Now what happens in uncertain goods? Ma'am, we learned that in case of uncertain goods, property gets transferred to the buyer only when the goods are ascertained and they have been, as per the description, they have been segregated and they are put in a deliverable state without any condition attached to it. यही पढ़ा था हमने 7 points of appropriation of goods. Remember, it is referring to those 7 points that goods should be as per the description unconditionally appropriated either by the seller or by the buyer. इसके बेस पे हमने आंसर देना है ये वाला क्वेश्चन का कि या तो सेलर निकाल कर गुड्स रखेगा बायर से पूछकर या फिर बायर निकाल के रखेगा सेलर से पूछकर. इन हिंदी दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ assent of the buyer and seller. And once these 7 points are clear, justified, the property in the good passes to the buyer. Now, what happened in this particular case?
Recording in progress.
What happened in this particular case was that it is clear that S has the right to select the goods out of the bulk and he has sent his men for the same purpose. So he said Mr. S was the buyer and he has sent his people for collecting the goods. Now it says the answer can be made in two assumptions. Law is smarter than you. So examiner did their smartness with you. You try to be more smart. You give two different assumptions. Assumption का मतलब क्या होता है कि मेरे ख्याल से अगर ये चीज है तो ऐसे आंसर होना चाहिए और अगर ये नहीं, because the question is silent whether the goods were selected with the consent of buyer's representative, yes or no. ये तो उसने बताया ही नहीं. मैंने ये बोल दिया कि मिस्टर एस ने अपना बंदा भेजा है गुड्स लेने के लिए, बट क्या हमने ये बताया कि एस इज द वन हु इज पैकिंग द गुड्स एंड विद हिज कंसेंट वी आर सिलेक्टिंग द गुड्स. सो लेट अस सी व्हाट विल हैपन इफ वी आर सिलेक्टिंग विद हिज कंसेंट एंड व्हाट विल हैपन इफ वी आर सिलेक्टिंग विदाउट हिज कंसेंट. ठीक है. So I told you, na, if you are selecting with the assent of the buyer, that is important. Buyer's assent is important. Then only it is said to be property in the goods will be passed. So in the first assumption, we say that we are assuming का मतलब पता है आप सबको कि हम ये assume कर रहे हैं, हम ये सोच रहे हैं कि जो बेल्स थी वो बायर के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव के कंसेंट के साथ सिलेक्ट हुई हैं. Now if S representative has selected, then 60 bales get transferred to the buyer immediately when they are appropriated. Therefore 60 bales का Mr. S will bear. And for 40 bales, Mr. V. Who is Mr. V? Mr. V is the seller. Seller will bear the loss. Clear है? यही most of you have answered me also कि मैम 60 bales जो पैक होगी थी बायर के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव के सामने हुई है. He will be liable to bear the loss and balance will be borne by seller. If the bales were not selected with the consent of buyer's representative, now this is very interesting. If I am the seller V and you have come, Mr. S representative, and you're standing here, and I am only appropriating the goods, then the property of the good lies with me only. I'm not taking your assent. In that case, property has not been transferred. Therefore, 100 bales of cotton loss will be bared by Mr. V itself. Clear ho gaya, children? I hope this question is now absolutely clear. We don't have much time. So I'll quickly explain sixth one also, why the confusion came. In the sixth question, he is asking the similar kind of question, that is X agreed to purchase 300 tons of wheat from Y out of a larger stock. Again, it is uncertain goods. Here also X has sent his man with the sacks and 150 tons of wheat were put into the sacks. बच्चे यहाँ पे डिफरेंस समझो. 300 में से आउट ऑफ लार्जर स्टॉक अनसर्टेन गुड्स उठाने थे. उसने सैक होता है बोरी जिसमें चावल भरने. तो एक्स ने बायर ने अपने बंदे भेजे विद द सैक्स एंड 150 टन्स ऑफ व्हीट वर पुट इनटू द सैक्स. द गुड्स आर स्पेसिफिक गुड्स, दे हैव बीन ascertained, they are put into the deliverable state. Buyer has the notice of it. 100% who will bear the loss? Buyer will bear the loss because the goods were in deliverable state and they were informed. The buyer was informed about it as well. So how you have to write the answer for this one? You will simply say the property will not pass unless the goods are in deliverable state and buyer has knowledge. In this specific case, although it was unasserted, but 300 tons has been decided out of the largest stock. Out of 300, 150 were put into the sack. Buyer will be responsible because loss of wheat is that of the buyer will be responsible for this 150 stocks only. Okay, so because 150 tons of sale has taken place, the balance obviously the seller will bear. Same answer. Now this answer goes with this first part जो हमने यहाँ पे पढ़ा है. चाहे आप इस तरह से आंसर कर लो कि विद द कंसेंट ऑफ बायर्स रिप्रेजेंटेटिव कर रहे हो, चाहे आप इस तरह से कह दो कि गुड्स वर रेडी टू बी टेकन टू बी डिलीवरेबल, द गुड्स हैव बीन पुट इन अ डिलीवरेबल स्टेट, बायर हैज नॉलेज ऑफ इट, both ways your answer will be correct. All right. So somebody was asking another query in question number 7. I don't know why you're asking. It is so simple. Manvi sent a question. That never that quad habit means no one can sell what he does not have. So this is simple meaning. If I don't have something, I cannot sell it. So it should be, answer should be A part to this. Okay. This is general Latin maxim that you cannot transfer the title unless and until you are the owner of the goods. So I hope, children, all your doubts related to this are as well clear. Now we'll be starting with a new chapter, that is unpaid seller. Meenakshi Mali, you will understand what is lien absolutely clearly now. Simriti Maheshwari, your answer was absolutely correct, child. Harsh Agarwal was also correct. Good. Okay. Anushka Agarwal, auction sale we are yet to do. Your question will be answered. Very nice, children. Many of you have answered that S and B also correctly. So good. I hope now. Thank you, Himanshu Pathak. I'm glad now it's absolutely clear. Good. Okay, children. Now, what is the meaning of unpaid seller? So this topic is divided into 5 different headings. Who is an unpaid seller? What are the rights of the seller against the goods? What are his rights against the buyer? What are the remedies available with the buyer? What do you mean by remedies available with the buyer? Children, my question to you before we proceed further is, Miss Bhargavi, PPTs are already uploaded. You can download them from the portal. Okay. So, children, listen carefully. I'm asking you something which is the basis for understanding this chapter. Remedies of buyer against the seller. So, child, can we say that buyer can also take an action against the seller, right? So, when can the buyer take an action against the seller? Do you think the buyer can also take an action against the seller? Unpaid seller, I will explain you whole story. When my payment is not made, I will go and sue the buyer, or I will keep the goods with myself, or I'll take the goods back. I can resell the goods. Miss Lakshmi, you're absolutely clearly present in the class and your answers are also visible. Miss Lakshmi S, I can read your answers, don't worry. So now answer me back. When can the buyer take an action against the seller? Remedies or compensation? Yes, Miss Kirti, that is absolutely correct. But I want to ask you. Mr. Ankit says when whole of the price is not paid to the seller, then which a seller will take an action. Na? I'm to asking what are the cases in which the buyer, can the buyer take an action against the seller? Miss Pooja Kumari, excellent, when the breach is done by seller. So what kind of breach can be done by seller? This is what I want you all to use your brains. Miss Dhwani says if seller breaches, that is correct. Miss Bhumika is saying if seller becomes unpaid due to his own fault. Not at all correct. What do you mean by this? So you all are correct when you're saying when seller breaches the contract, but what if the goods are not as per the description? Miss Lakshmi is excellent. Mr. Kunal Jain, excellent, when delivery is not given to the buyer. Mr. Monu Singh is also correct, breach of condition if the goods are not delivered to the buyer. Ma'am, Hindi में समझा दो, Mr. Abhishek Kumar. बच्चे हिंदी में क्वेश्चन ये है कि बायर कब सेलर के अगेंस्ट एक्शन ले सकता है? क्या कभी बायर भी सेलर को कोर्ट में ड्रैग कर सकता है कि देखो इसने मेरे पास क्या सॉल्यूशंस है अगर सेलर मेरे साथ गलत करता है? तो मेरा सवाल ये है कि सेलर हमारे साथ गलत कब कर सकता है? तो बच्चे बिल्कुल ठीक आंसर कर रहे हैं. If the goods are not given to the buyer, when the goods were not as per the description, breach of implied condition. Very good, very good. Now most of you have started. Miss Pragya Sharma, you all are now writing the chapter of breach of implied condition. Somebody saying as per quality and fitness. Somebody saying something else. Lakshita, he is right saying that he can also claim damages for the goods. Very good. When delivery is not on time, likit. Excellent, children. That's very good. So in this chapter, we will be doing two types of rights. One are the detailed rights, which in the first half we'll be covering because seller is the major person over here. पता है क्यों? क्योंकि seller को तो payment होनी है. मैंने आपको 100 bags of chocolates आपके घर भेज दी और आप मुझे payment ही नहीं करोगे, क्या ये बात fair है? Don't you think if I can give you the goods and if you don't make my payment, I can 100% take an action against you. Now, what action can I take against you are of two types. Number one are the actions which I can take against my goods. Number two are the actions which I can take against the buyer, that is against you. What can I do if I've already sent the 100 bags of chocolates to your place and you have taken the goods and now you fail to make my payment? I become unpaid seller. I will strictly drag you to the court and I will ask, जज साहब मेरी पेमेंट दिलाइए. कोर्ट में जाकर यही बोलेंगे ना, हम लॉयर के पास जाएंगे, केस फाइल करेंगे एंड वील फाइल अ सूट फॉर प्राइस, फॉर द परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट or for claiming damages, whatsoever will be the case. The action that I can take against the buyer is I can file a suit against him. But what about the action against the goods? Action against the goods are very, very interesting. अब आएगा आपका interesting word, right to lien. What is the meaning of right to lien? This is a new word. We have never heard about this. Let's say I was the seller and I had to sell 100 bags of chocolates to you as a buyer. We made a contract of sale. Goods were already in my custody. Seller was having the goods. Buyer refused to make the payment. Should I give the goods to the buyer? Yes or no? Miss Ayushi Tripathi, Sameer Singh, Chitrankan Sharma, everybody's answers is coming, children. Today we have to complete Unpaid Seller, a huge, huge chapter. Don't expect me to take all your names. We'll try to take the names when you give me the answers, but don't worry, all your answers are correct, okay? Miss Ayushi, your answers are visible, don't worry. No, ma'am, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. Only Pragya Sharma says yes, ma'am, that's wrong. Lakshmi S, Sidra, Shrindi, Sneha, Hanchika, Mohan, Monu, Arisha, Mehakpreet, Nilesh, Samriti, Lakshita, Masum, Vivek, Arshdeep, MD, Sakshi, Sameer, Kunaljan, Harpreet, Arisha, Uzama, Yushi. All of you are correct. No, ma'am, you will not give him delivery. Why? Because it's a common man, it's a layman's answer, no? That if you not give me my payment, why will I give you 100 bags of chocolates? ऐसे थोड़ी ना, मेरा बर्थडे थोड़ी ना कि मैं फ्री में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर रही हूँ चॉकलेट्स. सेलर हूँ, बायर पेमेंट करेगा तो सामान मिलेगा, नहीं करोगे तो आई एम गोइंग टू एक्सरसाइज माय राइट टू लियन ऑन द गुड्स. इन लेमैन्स लैंग्वेज ये होता है मतलब ऑफ लियन, दैट आई विल नॉट गिव यू माय गुड्स. यू सेड यू विल नॉट मेक मी द पेमेंट, आई विल नॉट गिव यू द गुड्स. सिंपल. हो गया खत्म चैप्टर. अब पूरे 2 घंटे 1.5 घंटा जो भी हमारे पास टाइम है, हमने इसी के ऊपर डिस्कशन करनी है. When can I have a lien on the goods? When I cannot have a lien on the goods? What will happen if the goods have been given to the transporter? Can I still exercise the right to lien? अभी अभी आपने मुझे बताया कि if I had to send you 100 bags of chocolates, buyer said I will not make you the payment. So I quickly picked up the 100 bags of chocolates and I packed them in the godown and kept the keys with myself. Means I will not give you the goods now. This what I did is known as exercising right to lien on the goods. Means retaining the possession of the goods. अपने पास goods को रोक लेना. जो हिंदी में पूछते हैं, जहां नोट्स बना रहे हो हिंदी में लिख भी लिया करो. Goods को अपने पास रोक लेना means retaining the possession of goods. And my English friends have anyways understood that means I'm not going to give you the goods. But what if I've already given it to the transporter? Say I am in Delhi and you are in Pune and the goods are coming by truck. I have loaded those 100 bags of chocolates and now you called me and you told me I will not make you the payment. I'll quickly call the truck driver. I'll ask him, please bring back my goods. पेमेंट मना कर रहा है यार, मेरे गुड्स वापस ले आ, मैंने नहीं देने इसको गुड्स. नहीं दूंगी ना, पेमेंट सेल है भाई, बिजनेस है, पेमेंट नहीं दोगे मैं गुड्स नहीं दूंगी. पर am I exercising the right to lien on the goods? Law says no, now you're not exercising the right to lien because right to lien तो ended when you give the goods to the transporter. I can exercise the right to lien only when the goods are in my custody. Are the goods in my custody? No, they're not in my custody. I've already given it to the truck driver. So what can her lien ma'am do now? So she will call the truck driver. Please listen, that Pune guy has failed to make the payment. Please bring my goods back. Now this right which I exercised is right of stoppage in transit. रास्ते में ही गुड्स को रोक लेना. एक और भी राइट है मेरे पास गुड्स को लेकर. You told me you will not make the payment to me. I resold the goods to someone else. Very simple. Right to resale is very, very simple. आपने मना करा, मैंने किसी और को बेच दिए. भाई मुझे तो प्रॉफिट कमाना है ना. उसमें क्या होता है रीसेल में, स्टॉपेज ऑन ट्रांजिट में क्या होता है, वो तो हम पूरी लंबी बात करेंगे. अभी तो हम सिर्फ ये समझ रहे हैं कि एक सेलर के पास, एक चैप्टर में दिया क्या क्या हुआ है, किस तरह के राइट्स अगेंस्ट द गुड्स सेलर के पास होते हैं. Okay, children, so let us understand definitions now. Who is an unpaid seller and how he can exercise these rights? Very, very important definition. Who is an unpaid seller? It says when the whole of the price has not been paid or tendered. Tendered का मतलब यही है, pay नहीं करा, दिया नहीं, has not been given. Then the seller has the immediate right of action for the price. सिंपल शब्दों में, जब आपने मेरी पेमेंट नहीं करी तो मैं अनपेड सेलर बन गई. 100 bags of chocolates मैंने आपको सेल करे थे. प्राइस पेमेंट was 10,000 rupees. You paid me 5,000. You paid me 6,000 rupees, and you said we cannot pay balance 4,000. So I become unpaid seller, जिसकी पेमेंट पूरी नहीं हुई है. Even if 1 rupee is not paid, say for example you paid me 9,900 rupees and you did not pay me 100 rupees. Do I become unpaid seller? Yes, ma'am. Then also you become unpaid seller. Even if 1 rupee of my payment is not given to me, then also I become unpaid seller. So before we know that what are the rights of unpaid seller, it is very important to know that who is an unpaid seller. आप unpaid seller बनते कैसे हो? Okay? Mr. Devansh has written, हम बर्थडे में भी एक और 2 चॉकलेट्स देते हैं, 100 bags थोड़ी ना दे देंगे. Correct. Until and unless the payment is made, is not very good, Avinash. So good, children. Mr. Ustad Singh, that is part of separate story. We'll understand about the recovery also. But as of now, you just pay attention and understand what I'm saying. Right to keep the possession. Pratindya, that's correct. Leon means the same. Yes, Fatima, then also he can exercise his right to do. No payment, no sale. Very good, Mahesh. So here, so Priya Pandit is still asking the meaning of lien in simple language. Let me go to lien and then I'll explain you. So Mr. Sunny, we are assuming that the seller who is selling the goods is the owner of the goods, and that's why the owner can only sell the goods. If you're talking about non-owner, please apply those 7 cases of exceptions that we have done. Then also if the payment is not made to the person who is a seller, will be considered as the unpaid seller. So number 1 is very simple case where I've sold the goods for 10,000. You paid me 9,900, 100 rupees you have refused to pay. I can take an action against you because I have become unpaid seller. So whole of the price is important word to remember. जहाँ मेरा पूरा पैसा नहीं मिला. When a bill, a second point, when do I become unpaid seller? Another case, when the bill of exchange or any other negotiable instrument has been received as conditional payment and it gets dishonored. So there was a seller A who sold the goods to Mr. B, and Mr. B, instead of paying cash, gave me a check of rupees 10,000. Now, when B will give a check of 10,000 to A, what will A do? A will go and represent this check to bank. ऐसा ही होता है ना, check लगवाना पड़ता है ना हमें बैंक में. So A went to the bank and he got the check deposited for getting the amount credited in his account. But now this check got dishonor. What is the meaning of dishonor? Dishonor means that the check got bounced because there was no money in Mr. B's account. He did not have anything which has to be debited and credited to Mr. A's account. Basically, what happens with the check entry is amount will get deducted from B's account and will get credited to Mr. A's account. But the check got bounced. It got dishonored. It was not honored because there was no amount. There was no money in B's bank account. Now, don't you think that the seller has again become unpaid? पैसा तो आया ही नहीं, चेक तो दे दिया आपने, बट क्या मेरे पास पैसा आया? Answer is no, ma'am. You have not received the money. The check is dishonored. Then also I become unpaid seller. So the two cases in which I become unpaid seller, whether my cash money is not paid fully. Number one, if my cash money is not paid fully, I become unpaid seller. Number two, if the check that you have issued to me gets dishonored. So if the bill of exchange or check gets dishonored or cash is not fully paid, in both the cases, the seller becomes unpaid seller. Clear ho gaya? So let us see the examples. A sold certain goods to B for rupees 50,000 and B pays 40,000. In the first example, child, please tell me, he has already paid 40,000. Does A become unpaid seller? Yes or no? In the first example, you have to tell me, will A become unpaid seller or no? Will A become unpaid seller in the first example? Yes or no? Yes, Lakshita, we will also claim the damages. Be patient. Right now, we will understand clearly one by one each point. Yes, Miss Priyanka Jha, it's a right analysis that you have written. Yes, ma'am, he becomes unpaid seller. Miss Anushka Agarwal has given the answer also because whole of the payment has not been done. Good, Bhargavi, Lakshita, P. Vishnu, Sonali, Fezan, Vivika, Kunal Jain, Khushi, Himanshu, Nilesh, Hansika, Shrindi, Manash, Kare, Manjunathan, Mr. MD, Gunjan, all of you are correct. Mr. Tejashri, Deepak, Dhwani, good. Kirti also, Meenakshi, good. So why he became unpaid seller? Because whole of the price was not paid. Even if he had paid him 49,999 rupees and 1 rupee was left, then also he becomes unpaid seller. Whole of the prize money is the important line that you have to remember. What happened in the example number second? P sold certain goods to R for 60,000 and received a check. On presentation of the check, it got dishonored in bank. Will P become unpaid seller? Definitely, even if the check is dishonored, P becomes the unpaid seller. Now, if you get the question in the exam about who is an unpaid seller and define it for 4 marks or 6 marks, just give this definition and write these examples. Both the examples are absolutely clarifying that these are the cases in cash payment. If whole of the payment is not made, you become unpaid seller. And if the check gets dishonored, you become unpaid seller. Kaustubh, Tanishka, Avinash, MD, Janvi, Siri Gobari, all of you are correct, child. Good. Shivangi, Priya, nice. Bhargavi, Vagdevi, all of you. Isha also. Okay. So now what are the rights of the unpaid seller? Does the unpaid seller get any rights? Yes, ma'am. You just now told us that in this chapter, once you become an unpaid seller, we need to understand what are the rights available to the unpaid seller. So I told you there are 2 types of rights. One are the rights which are against the goods. Another are the rights which I can take against the buyer. So all those children who are asking me, ma'am, can we take the buyer to the court? Can we claim the damages? That is second part of the story. First, I will exercise my rights against the goods. बच्चा आप मुझे एक बात बताओ जनरल लैंग्वेज में, अगर मैंने आपको 10 चॉकलेट सेल करनी है and those 10 chocolates are already in my godown, and if you do not make me the payment, will I keep the 10 chocolates with myself or I will still give you the chocolates and drag you to the court? What does the common sense say? If the goods are with me, I'll try to keep the goods with me, na? So the first action that unpaid seller will take will always be against the goods. Buyer par to hum tab jayenge if I've already given him the goods. Now a big problem. I sent those 100 bags of chocolates. Buyer received it. He's eating, enjoying it, making cakes out of it, celebrating, enjoying the ownership. Can I take the goods back? खा ही ली उसने तो chocolates वापस कैसे लेकर आऊं मैं? Then I will exercise my rights against the buyer. Then I will drag you to the court. I'll claim the damages. I'll file a suit for price, interest, whatever we have to do. Then we will jump to the rights against the buyer. First of all, though, I'll always use my rights against the goods. So rights against the goods, you can simply see that I will put the goods in this drawer and these keys are kept over here. I lock the goods. This is just to show you that I will lock the goods in my drawer and I will keep the keys to myself. I am not going to give you the goods if buyer refuses to make my payment. All right. Whether the property has been passed, whether the property has not been passed. Again, a test of yours. When the property has been passed, Mr. Saurabh Jha, you have to answer now. When the property has been passed, is it a contract of sale or agreement to sell? फटाफट से बता दो मुझे जल्दी. When the property has been passed, children, all of you have to answer. Mr. Samir saying discount again is a separate story. Here we are talking about getting unpaid. So if I've given you discount only, then why are you saying I will become unpaid? तो मैंने खुद ही अपनी मर्जी से दिया ना discount. Contract of sale. Absolutely, those who have said, ma'am, where the property have been passed, it is a contract of sale. Where the property has not been passed, it is an agreement to sell. Good, Surya Kumar, Shindi, Sunny, Fatim, Mathur, Pratinda, Isha, Nilesh, Anjana, very good children. That means whether it is a contract of sale or it is an agreement to sell, I have the right against my goods if you don't make me the payment. So where A told B that I will sell you the goods on 10th of September, property has not been passed, it is an agreement to sell, B refused to make the payment, I will use my right against the goods. Which right I'm going to use? That is what we are going to understand in the next slide. समझ आ गया बच्चों? पहले आप right against the goods use करते हो, जब right against the goods खत्म हो जाते हैं, lapse हो जाते हैं, फिर हम right against the buyer use करते हैं. And these rights are available only to the unpaid seller if my payment is not. So what are the rights when the properties of the goods has been passed to the buyer? It is the case of sale. When the property is not passed to the buyer, it is the case of agreement to sell. Chapter number 1, you all have done differences between sale and agreement to sell. जिसको नहीं याद है, first chapter की recording सुन के revise कर सकते हैं. So in case of sale, A agreed to sell goods to B for 50,000. B made the payment of 45,000. 5,000 he refused to pay. So I become unpaid seller. Now what all rights are available with me? Right to lien, right to stoppage in transit, and right to resale. These are the rights available in case of a contract of sale. What if A agreed to sell the goods on a later date and on the later date B refuses? Then lien, stoppage in transit and resale rights are still available. Along with that, I have a fourth right, that is right to withholding delivery. Now, in case of agreement to sell, it says there is a quasi lien. There is an additional right given to the seller where I made an agreement to sell. For example, A agreed to sell to B. On 10th of September, I will be selling you the goods. So sale of future goods is always an agreement to sell. On 4th September, B told me, I will not give you the payment. It's not possible for me to pay you. Will you give you the goods? Will A give the goods to B? Answer is absolutely no. He can exercise his right to lien, stoppage in transit, resale. If the goods were sent in transit, then also he can call back for the goods. But another additional right available in agreement to sell is a quasi lien. That means withholding delivery. I am not going to deliver the goods unless and until you give me the payment. What is the meaning of withholding delivery? Delivery of goods को रोक लेना. goods अपने पास रख देना. This is similar to the right of lien. It is an additional right available, that is a quasi lien, which is available in case of agreement to sell. जब हम स्टडी मटेरियल में जाएंगे तब हम इसके बारे में दोबारा पढ़ेंगे. पहले हम एक एक करके इन तीनों राइट्स को समझ लेते हैं कि व्हाट आर दीज राइट्स व्हिच आर अवेलेबल विद द सेलर. Clear है children? So sale में we have 3 rights, agreement to sell में we have 4 rights. Let us start by understanding these are the rights against the buyer. This we'll do later on. Let us start understanding what is the first right, that is right to lien. Now all the eyes and ears carefully here. Now your favorite word lien will become very, very easy for you. It says it means right to retain the possession until you pay my money. I agree to say I am selling you 100 bags of chocolate. You said you will not pay. I retain the possession of goods. I will pack them in the godown or in the drawer and I'm not going to give you the goods. ये होता है मतलब लियन का. हिंदी में इसका मतलब होता है goods ना देना. Provided the goods were with you. ये लिख लो asterisk mark कर यहाँ पे. Mark an asterisk and write in your notebooks. Goods should be with the seller. Then only he can exercise the right to lien. लिखो बच्चों, goods should be with the seller. Then only he can exercise the right to lien. Varda, Fatima will understand when we do that particular point. Don't worry. Manju, Nathan and T. Vishnu, you're asking what is lien. That is what we are doing, Mr. Durgesh, Atharva. Please pay attention. So right to lien is the right to retain the possession of the goods, but I'm making you write down one point. Goods should be with the seller, then only he can exercise his right to lien. So right to lien means right to have a control on the goods, right to keep the goods with himself. So lien का मतलब होता है to have a control on goods. Okay, Durgesh? Lien means right to have control on the goods, to keep the goods with yourself, not to give the goods to the buyer. And this can be done only if the goods were with the seller. Now, these are the 3 cases in which the right to lien can be exercised. Number 1 is the case of cash sales. I just now told you 10,000 rupees to be paid. You paid me 9,000. You refuse to pay 1,000. I become unpaid seller. I will not give you the goods. So in cash sales, if the goods are sold without any credit period, cash need to be paid, buyer did not pay my cash, I will not give you the goods. Simple. Goods sold on credit. If I have decided to give you a credit period for 1 month, those who used to ask me credit sales, remember you were asking me, so sale of goods cover cash sales and credit sales, both I told you. So what is credit sales? You came to my shop, you said, ma'am, I don't have money right now. Can you give me goods on credit? उधार पे सामान बेचना. तो मैंने आपको 1 month credit period दे दिया. I thought you are a good buyer, you come regularly, so take 1 month credit period. So you came to my shop on 1st August and I gave you the credit period of 30th of August. So what is your responsibility, child? Now on 31st August, you must make my payment, right? I've given you 1 month's credit period, 31st तक आप मेरी payment जरूर करो. But now if 30th August has come and it is 31st have also ended, 1st September has come and you fail to pay my money. Do I become unpaid seller? Yes or no? I gave you a credit period of 1 month and that 1 month period has ended. Yes, Mr. MD Barkatullah, absolutely these are conditional appropriation because the condition of payment is must when we are talking about unpaid seller. You are absolutely correct. Definitely, Ekta Tiwari, if the contract comes to an end, the balance amount will be returned. Yes, good. Gareja, Khushi, Vagdevi, Shrindi, Arshdeep. Lakshmi S, Kare Monica, Sonali Devansh, Mahesh, Sakaldeep, Vivek Kumar, all of you are correct. Yes, ma'am. He becomes unpaid seller because I have given you the credit period of 1 month. It has ended. You did not make my payment. I become unpaid seller. Now, third case is very, very important and it is interesting also. Buyer becomes insolvent. What is the meaning of insolvent? Ceases to pay का meaning लिख लेना, fails to pay. Ceases means fails to pay. See, for example, there was a shopkeeper, Mr. A, who opened up his new business, invested in a lot of capital. How do you open a business? You invest a lot of capital, you take so many liabilities, and then you run your business. But then you suffered a loss in the market. The business did not go well. You had liabilities of 10,000 outstanding and the assets were not sufficient. You only have assets of 1,000 rupees. In such a cases, law declares you insolvent. Somebody who is not able to pay his debts in the ordinary course of business. Insolvency, remember in chapter 1 definitions, we have done a person who is unable to pay off his liabilities. Your assets are not that much that you can, because you have suffered huge losses in the market and now you have become insolvent. You don't have sufficient money to pay to your creditors. Okay, so you don't have much money to dispose of your liabilities, so you become insolvent. Now, if this A has purchased few goods from Mr. C, so Mr. C was a seller who has given the goods to Mr. A buyer and who has made a contract of sale, but goods are with Mr. C only. Where were goods? Goods were with Mr. C only. And now C came to know that A has become insolvent. Will C give the goods to A? If C is the seller and the goods are lying with C only, I hope you all are writing these small examples because this will help you to learn as well. If C is the seller, goods are with seller only, and the goods were sold on to A, property in the goods was passed, contract of sale was made, but the goods were still lying with me, delivery of goods was pending. You have come to know that Mr. A has been declared insolvent. That means he failed to pay off his liabilities. Janvi Mahesh, that's correct. Mohan Singh, Kare, all of you are right. Will you give the delivery? Lakshmi S, Sakshi R, Sakshi Kadulkar, Lakshita, all of you are correct. No, ma'am, because he became unpaid seller, he will not give the goods. So children, also tell me what right he will exercise on the goods. He can exercise. Anjana says a big no. Good. That means you've understood. Why you're not giving the goods? Now you can exercise your right to lien on the goods. When you say, no, ma'am, we will not give the goods, that means you're exercising your right to lien on the goods. Samajh gaye? So what are the three cases in which I can exercise the right to lien? Cash sales. If you don't make my full payment, I will have a control on the goods. I will retain its possession. Credit sale. When the credit period has ended, I will not give you the goods if you do not make my payment. Third case, Mr. C, the seller, came to know that he has become insolvent. Buyer is no longer able to pay off his liabilities. Simple, I will not give you my goods. So what right I'm exercising? I'm exercising my right to lien on the goods. Somebody is asking, ma'am, हम क्यों नहीं देंगे इंसॉल्वेंट में? क्योंकि बेटा वो मेरा पेमेंट नहीं ना देगा. जब वो लाइबिलिटीज ही नहीं पे करा तो मेरी पेमेंट नहीं आएगी तो मैं उसे गुड्स ही नहीं दूंगी. Part delivery. Somebody in the morning was also asking what is part delivery. Part delivery of goods means I had to send you 11,000 bags of sugar. I have sent you 6,000 bags of sugar in one truck and balance 5,000s are coming in another truck, second truck. Now in delivery of goods, we understood, child, that if the buyer accepts 6,000 goods, he is bound to accept the balance delivery of goods as well. This was part delivery. This was not delivery in installments. I told you 11,000 bags of sugar मेरे truck में fit नहीं आ रहे थे. I called buyer that I'm sending the goods in different parts. He has accepted to that. So now he should accept the goods coming from both the trucks. 6,000 truck he has accepted. He should accept 5,000 also. This was the meaning of part delivery of goods. Now, when can I exercise my right to lien if part delivery has been made? So law says seller can exercise his right to lien on the remaining goods if part delivery has already made, unless the part delivery means waive off of lien. अब अगर मैंने आपको 6,000 का ट्रक भेज दिया, एक तो हमने समझा था कि buyer is bound to accept my goods. अब हम समझ रहे हैं exercise of right to lien. So I sent you 6,000 goods and then I came to know that this buyer is not going to make my payment. As a wise man, will you still send the second truck? No, not at all. अब मुझे पता लगे एक तो already 6,000 bags of sugar मेरे trouble में payment नहीं आनी, तो मैं बाकी की delivery कभी भी नहीं करूँगी. I will exercise the right to lien on the remaining goods. But where I have already told you that my part delivery will be considered as waiver of lien, then I cannot do. If we have decided that once I have given you the delivery, I will not be exercising the right to lien, then it is a separate terms and conditions between the buyer and seller. But general rule is, in case of part delivery of the goods, if half of the goods or whatever part of the goods has been sent to the buyer, if the seller comes to know that now he has become unpaid seller, he will withhold the delivery of the remaining goods. He will not send the remaining goods unless he is sure of the payment of the goods. And when does this right to lien comes to an end? Termination of lien का मतलब लिख लेना. When does the lien comes to an end? Means when I cannot exercise my right to lien. What is the meaning of lien? Lien means control on the goods. Now we are doing the 4 cases where you cannot have any control on the goods. Number 1 case, when the goods are given to the carrier or payee. Remember section 23? Once the goods have been given to the courier or bailee, it will be presumed that the goods have been given to the buyer's agent without reserving the right to disposal child. एक बार मैंने delivery or courier को दे दिया, that means I have sent the goods to the buyer. Now my right to lien on the goods comes to an end. अब दिमाग में जो क्वेश्चन आता है कि मैम, if I come to know that buyer will not make my payment, then I will not exercise my right to lien. What can I do then? You have other rights which we learn in a few course of time, but right to lien cannot be exercised. Right to stoppage in transit can still be exercised, but right to lien cannot be exercised because you parted with the group goods. अभी asterisk लगाकर हमने क्या line लिखी थी? Right to lien can be exercised only if the goods are lying with the seller. So here, with the goods are given to the transporter, my right to lien comes to an end. Where the buyer or his agent lawfully obtain the goods. So A sent the goods to B, and the goods delivery was taken by the buyer or his agent. Now the buyer refuses to make the payment. So A becomes unpaid seller. Can A take the goods back? Law says no. Once the delivery has been made, buyer has lawfully obtained means चोरी से नहीं लिए, legally लिए, but payment नहीं करा. बाकी सारी contract of sale की conditions valid थी, but payment नहीं करा तो unpaid seller बन गया. I cannot go and take my goods back. I can exercise other rights against the buyer or right to stoppage in transit, but if the goods have already been obtained by the buyer, right to lien cannot be exercised. By waiver का मतलब होता है give up कर देना, waive off कर देना. मैंने खुद ही बोल दिया कि okay, I give up my right to lien. Even if tomorrow you not make my payment, I will use another rights against you, but I will not use the right to lien on the goods. Seller himself at times waives off his right to lien. By estoppel means by his conduct or behavior. Now there was a person A who agreed to sell the goods to Mr. B. This Mr. B, what did he does? Mr. B told that, there is another buyer, Mr. C, who wants to buy the goods from me. I am selling the goods, which are already lying with you. I am already selling the goods to Mr. C. And Mr. A remained silent on this. Now B refused to make the delivery. Can he exercise the right to lien on the goods? Law says no. Because with his consent, buyer when sells the goods to a new buyer, seller cannot exercise his right to lien. Because A ने ही कहा था ना कि हाँ जी आप बेच दो goods C को. He remained silent. He did not say anything. By his conduct or behavior, he has silent means acceptance. That means I'm okay if you're giving my goods further to C. Now, if B refuses to make the payment, how A will recover the money, what actions he can take against B and C is a separate story. But can he exercise the right to lien on the goods? You tell me, children. A is the seller, B is the buyer. B sold the goods further to C in front of A. He told A that I'm giving your goods further to C, I'm selling them off. A remained silent. By his conduct or behavior, he's given his acceptance. Can A now exercise his right to lien? Excellent. Those who say no, ma'am. Why? Because Miss Janvi will understand that case in case of stoppage in transit. Don't worry. So silent amounts to acceptance. Sarthak said is absolutely correct. Harsh Agarwal, Nishant, you're right. All of you, Sameer, Uzma, Sehar. So why he cannot take? Because goods, मैंने बताया ना, goods हमारे पास होनी चाहिए ना लियन एक्सरसाइज करने के लिए. जब goods आगे उसने C को दे दिए, rule of estoppel will become applicable. Now the right to lien has come to an end. So children, in these 4 cases, the right to lien comes to an end. And the very important line, which most of you keep messaging me, asking me the meaning of decree for the price, now we are going to understand. It says the unpaid seller does not lose his right to lien, even if he has obtained a decree for the price. Now, children, sometimes seller has filed a suit in the court for the prize money. Say there was a seller A who said 10,000 need to be paid for my goods, but buyer said, no, I will only pay 8,600. So A ने क्या करा, उसने case file कर दिया for the price amount. That now court will fix what is the price which has to be paid, because there is a debate between both of them. So he has obtained a decree from the court for the price of the goods. So law fixed the rate that, okay, say for example 9,100, उसने दोनों का बीच का price fix कर दिया. So now he has the court's order. Decree means the court's order. A suit was filed for the price of the goods. Now Mr. A has taken the order of the court that this much price needs to be paid. Now, what it has the right of lien with it, law says even if you have obtained such court's order for the prize money, then also you can exercise your right to lien on the goods. Your right to lien will not get affected even if you have filed a case in the court for the prize money. So in this respective example, even if the court's order has been obtained for the price of 9,100, tomorrow if B fails to make my payment, I become unpaid seller, I can still exercise my right to lien. So decree for the price means court's order, unpaid seller will not lose his right. That means he can still exercise his right of lien even if he has obtained the court's order for the prize money. So children, these are the same examples which we have just discussed in case of cash sales, credit sales, insolvency. In all these cases where the buyer fails to make the payment, the seller has the right to exercise the lien. Here, lien cannot be exercised. If the goods have been given to the railway authorities, then lien cannot be exercised. So both these are examples of number one, when the lien can be exercised. And this is the example of when the lien comes to an end. Once you have transported these goods, car is already going in the railway authorities, railway wagons, they are taking the car. How can you exercise the right to lien? But what other rights are available, that we'll understand after a short break. Let's take a small break. It's already 12:04 and we'll continue after the break, children. Okay, children, welcome back. I was going through your queries only. So Avinash Kansar is saying he cannot use his right to lien because the goods are when the goods are not with him. That's absolutely correct. Miss Sarisha Naz is asking the point of estoppel once again. So child, estoppel means by a conduct of behavior. If I am the seller and Arisha, you are the buyer, you purchase certain goods from me. And before making the payment, you sold the goods to Mr. Ankit Mishra. So Arisha sold the goods to Mr. Ankit Mishra and I did not say anything. I said, okay, by my actions, it was implied that I'm accepting what has happened. So now since Arisha has sold the goods to Ankit, I as a seller cannot exercise my right to lien. Children, all those who are asking the points of credit sale also, please understand this one important line. The goods are with the seller, exercise the right to lien. क्या होता है right to lien? Right to lien is the legal right given to the seller to take back the goods. It's a legal right given to the seller to take back the goods or keep the goods with themselves. This is what we understand. In legal language, we say retain the possession of the goods. Retaining possession means I will not give you the goods. So ये बात होगी if the goods are with the seller. If the goods are not with the seller, then he cannot exercise the right to lien. Simple. Either you have given it to the transporter for transmission or buyer has obtained it legally from you, or by estoppel, Arisha pick up the goods and gave to Mr. Ankit Sharma in front of my eyes. I cannot exercise the right to lien. Simple things you have to remember. Now, this is very simple language I have written. This is the kind of notes you should make. If the goods are with the seller, exercise the right to lien. That is the legal right. Seller has to keep the goods with himself. If the goods are not with the seller, he cannot exercise the right to lien. Now, all those who are asking about the doubt of credit sales, I will not be taking the name. Many of you have written, ma'am, in credit sale, how can he exercise the right to lien? So let's take another example. A sold goods to B on credit period of 1 month and the goods are lying with A. एज्यूम कर लो ना, लिख लो. पर्पस तो यही है कि गुड्स ए के साथ होने चाहिए, सेलर के साथ होने चाहिए. नाउ यू टेल मी इफ बी डज नॉट मेक द पेमेंट आफ्टर द क्रेडिट ऑफ 1 month has expired, can A retain the goods? Definitely yes, ma'am, because goods are lying with A. Another example where I've sold the goods in credit period, but I've given the goods also to you. The goods are not with me. Then I cannot exercise the right to lien. I can only exercise the right to lien if the goods are with me. What else I can do? I will teach you what else I can do. But as of now, simply understand that the lien. Kriti is also saying, ma'am, goods sold on credit, how will the seller have the custody of? So you have to assume if the goods are lying in my shop, I gave you credit period. So I made a contract of sale. Now I'm acting as an agent on your behalf. मैंने सिर्फ goods अपने पास रखे कि जब आप मेरी पेमेंट दोगे आप कुछ ले जाना. बट आपने कीर्ति मना ही कर दिया, पेमेंट ही नहीं करोगे तो मैं आपको गुड्स ही नहीं दूंगी. बट अगर मैंने आपको क्रेडिट पे गुड्स देने के बाद गुड्स दे दिए हैं, देन आई कैन नॉट एक्सरसाइज द राइट. Janvi Sarmankar is saying, I am talking about the delivery of goods to carrier. So delivery of goods to carrier, we'll be talking about right of stoppage in transit. You will understand there. All those who are asking Himanshu Pathak about railway authorities and Mohan Singh, payment to the seller, what will happen if the goods are with the third party, right to stoppage in transit will clear your point. Chitrang Sharma is asking if buyer pays seller the check and fails to deliver the goods on time, Yes, definitely. Buyer can also file a suit. That is again part of a different story. We will be talking about the rights of the buyer as well. Miss Varda Fatima, whether the property in the goods has been passed or the property in goods has not been passed, if the goods are with the seller, you do not make my payment, I will not give you the goods. Whosoever is the owner, even if you are the owner of the goods, even if the property in the goods has passed, ownership has passed, if the goods are lying with the seller, you fail to pay the payment, I can exercise my right to do. Balasajan Lakshmi, I hope now Lian is absolutely clear to you. In Harsh Agarwal, in credit sale, I can give you a credit period and then I will be holding the goods on your behalf as your agent. Definitely, if the ownership has been passed, if the goods are with the seller, you don't make my payment, I can have an exercise of right on lien. I hope, children, with this chart, now things have got more clear. Mehakpreet Singh, I hope you understood about Stopple. Thank you, Kushdeep Kaur. If you are finding it easy now, glad to know that. Yes, Miss Anjana, bad debts will also have the same meaning, but we will not be discussing accounts here. Ziba is asking what is the meaning of waiver. Seller himself says, I waive off my right, I gave up my right to lien. In that case, seller cannot exercise his right to lien. Vivek Kumar and Nishant is asking what is the meaning of Bailey. Nishant Gupta, Bailey means the person who is bound to take care of your goods. You have not sold the goods to him, you have given him for certain purpose, then he should take care of your goods and return it. Definitely, Ms. Farda Fatma, for exercising the right to lien, it is necessary that the possession of the goods should be with the seller. Ma'am, decree means बता दीजिए. Ma'am, insolvency बता दीजिए. Vivek Kumar, Miss Sidra Fatima. Insolvency means when the buyer does not have sufficient money to make the payment, he is declared insolvent by court. In such a case, right to lien can be exercised. Decree means order taken by the court, Miss Sidra Fatima, that even if you have taken the order from the court for the prize money, then also your right to lien will not get disturbed. If your payment is not made, you can exercise the right to lien on the goods. Yes, Miss Bhumika, absolutely correct. Notwithstanding meaning, Kunal Jain, I will make you understand when we go to this particular topic. I hope, children, now I have taken up. Thank you so much, MD Kushi and Gunjan Devi, writing for it's absolutely clear. Mehakpreet Nishan, great. Sanjana is still lost between estoppel. So I just now explained you estoppel. I hope now you have understood. Can we say the yes, Mansi Sharma, that's correct. Fatima Thul Fida MP, when you say that the buyer has become insolvent, yes, I told you the rateable dividend payment can be made as per that. But as a wise man, as a seller, just tell me when you have come to know that he has become insolvent and the goods are lying with you, then obviously you will not part with the goods, na? So you may exercise the right to lien. ये तो law में लिखा है कि आप ये lien exercise कर सकते हो. आपने नहीं करने, आप मत करो, दे दो goods, कोई बात नहीं, फिर official assignee से पैसे ले लेना. That is also correct that you have written that I can take the money from official assignee. Then whatever amount he will pay to you, you can take that. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lakshmi. Yes, Ziba, Saima. Okay, well. Saima Khatun, these are the cases in which you cannot exercise your right to lien when the goods have been given to the carrier, when buyer has obtained the goods by waiver and by estoppel. Now, children, let us quickly do it. It's already time is running fast. Right of stoppage in transit. Now, right to stop in transit is very, very simple. You all have clear. Thank you so much, Anjana. Right to stop does only has the right to lien or the Miss Kare, Monica, you'll understand it further. Right to stoppage in transit means right to stop the goods while they are in transit to regain the possession until the price is paid. So I just now told you if A has loaded the goods in the truck to be taken to Pune, and now I've come to know that this buyer B will not make my payment, I will call the truck driver and I will regain my goods back. So in right to lien, we use the word retain because goods are with me. अभी मैंने आपको whiteboard पे दिखाया था. Goods are with the seller, he will retain the possession. Right to stoppage in transit में you can write down that once you have given the goods to the transporter and you come to know that the payment will not be made, you will call the truck driver or railway authorities and regain your goods. So right to stoppage in transit में we are taking back the goods, we are regaining the possession. Now, this is very, very important. What are the conditions to be satisfied in order to apply right to stoppage in transit? Number one, seller must be unpaid. क्या आप ट्रक ड्राइवर को ऐसी अपनी मर्जी से कॉल करके बोल दोगे हाँ जी गुड्स वापस ले आओ? अगर आपको पता लग गया पेमेंट नहीं होनी है तभी करोगे. Only when you have become unpaid, then you can exercise this right. You have parted with the possession of the goods. Now, all the eyes and ears here. Again, I'm going to take your test. Thank you, Ms. Masoom. Lakshita Sagarvanshi, with this example, it will become clear. So you have to answer me. Miss Lakshmi, yes, transit means raste mein hai. Transit. They're already in the on the way. They have not been yet received by the buyer. Okay, this is the meaning of transit. So a question for all of you. It says that I will exercise the right to stoppage in transit only when I've parted with the possession of the goods. So children, if I have not parted with the goods, then what right I can exercise? If the seller has not parted with the goods, then what right I can exercise? I know you all know this. सब तो अच्छे से clear हो गया. Ms. Isha Pandit, if the conditions that I have taught you are satisfied, then you can exercise your right to leave. Children, quickly answer me. If I have not parted with the goods, then I had the right. Excellent. Then, ma'am, we would have exercised our right to lien on the goods. It's only because my right to lien has come to an end. That's why I am exercising my right to stoppage in transit. I'm not taking names. All of you are correct. Goods must be in transit. अभी बताया मैंने रास्ते में होने चाहिए. Goods buyer के पास नहीं पहुंचे. They are already on the way. Goods in transit means they are on the way. Buyer has become insolvent. Now this A has loaded the 100 bags of sugar in the truck and the truck is going from Delhi to Pune. A got to know that the buyer B has become insolvent. So are all the conditions satisfied? A became unpaid seller? Yes, ma'am. Goods were in transit? Yes, ma'am. I have parted with the goods? Yes, ma'am. Buyer has become insolvent? Yes. So what will A do? A will exercise his right to stoppage in transit. Now, these are the points how he exercises right to transit. Number one, by taking the possession of the goods, he will go and reach the place and take the goods back. Or by giving a notice of his claim to the carrier or bailee. Or he will just call the person, please bring the goods back. या तो वो खुद वहां जाकर गुड्स वापस ले लेगा या फिर नोटिस दे देगा करियर या बेली को. बेली इज द पर्सन हु इज कैरिंग द गुड्स, चिल्ड्रन. So he will only give a notice to the transporter or bailee who is acting as a bailee for us in this case. He will give him a notice, please bring my goods back. And point number 3, all the expenses of re-delivery are to be borne by the seller. Is it correct, children? Yes or no? Do I need to bear all the expenses when I'm stopping the goods in transit? Absolutely, yes, ma'am. You will only bear because you have the risk of loss by giving the goods to an insolvent buyer. You have asked the truck driver to stop and bring the goods back. Now, whatever expenditure will be incurred in between of bringing the goods back to the seller will definitely be borne by the seller. Simple answer is because property in the goods, I am the owner, I am regaining the possession, I am exercising my rights. Therefore, I will get the goods back and all the extra expenditure will be incurred by the seller himself. Clear ho gaya, children? Now, these are the points we understood when the lien comes to an end. Parted of goods, Varda means, parted means goods de dena. मैंने अपने से अलग कर दी. Yes, Miss Saima Khatun, that's right. Definitely, Priyanka Jha, it is the condition that the buyer should have become insolvent. Only in that case, I can exercise my right to stoppage in transit. Miss Anushka Agarwal, then we have to see whether the other conditions are satisfied. Buyer becomes insolvent is also one of the conditions which needs to be satisfied for exercising the right to stoppage in transit. Mahesh Kumar, even if the transporter was the buyer's agent, if I've come to know buyer is insolvent, I can ask him to bring back my goods. Yes, that's right, Manish Mahato and Ziba. Duration of transit. When does the transit comes to an end? So, ma'am, you told us that the goods are in transit. Then only I can exercise my right to lien. But now, when does this transit comes to an end? Number one, when the goods are given to the carrier or other payee for transmission. So, when are the duration of transit? He has defined when are the goods in transit. So, once I have given to the carrier, transporter, then it becomes goods are in transit for transmission until the delivery is taken. So once the buyer has taken the delivery, then I cannot exercise the right to stoppage in transit. In order to exercise my right of stopping in transit, the goods should be in transit. Transit end irrespective of the fact that the further destination is indicated by the buyer. So for example, from Delhi to Pune, if the goods were to be sent, now the goods, if they reached Pune, now buyer, if he's sending the goods further to some another destination, then also my transit will come to an end because I have agreed with you to send the goods till Pune. Only till that particular destination, I could exercise my right to stoppage in transit. Any other further destination which buyer has indicated, my transit will come to an end. If the goods are rejected by the buyer, transit is not deemed to end. अगर buyer ने ही बोल दिया कि now I don't want your goods, please take them back, then it will still be considered as the goods in transit. I can exercise my right of stoppage in transit and what those consequences can still be borne. Where the courier wrongfully refuses to deliver the goods, transit comes to an end. अगर जो carrier और बेली ही refuse कर देता है, वो goods नहीं देता buyer को, then the stoppage in transit right comes to an end. If the goods are chartered by ship by the buyer, the transit comes to an end. Now here, buyer has sent his own ship to take the goods. Therefore, it will not be presumed to be goods in transit. Where the part delivery has been made, remaining goods can be stopped. We already understood if part delivery of goods has been sent and I come to know buyer has become insolvent, I will not send you the remaining goods. Now, all those who are getting confused between section 23 and 25, children, here, this is a conditional appropriation. If I'm giving the goods, I am reserving the right to stoppage in transit. Right to disposal is assumed to have been there. I anyways told you if seller is reserving his right of disposal, he has the right to take back the goods. He will decide how I have to use the goods. So that is the case where stoppage in transit is become applicable. If I'm, but the conditions have to be seen. Then only this particular right can be exercised. The buyer seller becomes unpaid. Buyer has become insolvent, the goods are in transit, then you can anytime call the transporter and get the goods back. Now, this is very, very important. Effect of sub-sale or pledge by buyer. अब इस केस में क्या हुआ? इसने बोला section 53 and 54 is a reference to this, and after this we'll go in the study material and we'll do there also. If any further sub-sale or pledge is being made by the buyer, A entered into a contract to sell the goods in possession of Wharfinger to B. So A is the seller and he said the goods are lying with the Wharfinger. So before loading the goods in ship, I told you it's a kind of godown where the goods are kept. So they were in the possession of the Wharfinger and he contracted to sell the goods to B, who is a buyer. B further sold the goods to C and C paid the price for this. So what has he done now? A sold the goods to B. B further did a sub-sale. What did B did? B did a sub-sale to C. Now what happened? B fails to make the payment to A. Will you say that A has become unpaid seller? Can he exercise his right to lien? He ordered the Wharfinger not to give the delivery of goods to C. Now it says, if the seller has assented to such resale, his right to lien is defeated. Very, very important point. Law says where the seller is selling the goods to B and B makes any further sub-sale to C, B makes further subsale to C. Children, if A has assented means this sale by B to C is made with A's approval. If A said, yes, I'm okay with this, or by estoppel, by remaining silent, or A has given his assent. Assent means हाँ कर दिया उसने. A ने कहा हाँ जी B आप please C को resale कर दीजिए, मुझे कोई problem नहीं है. So you tell me, can in such a case, can A exercise his right to lien on the goods? If B, the buyer, makes a subsale, लिख लो example. If B, the buyer, makes a subsale to C, and this subsale is made with approval of seller A, can A recover the goods from C if buyer fails to make the payment? So number one case, A has become unpaid seller. Yes, ma'am, because buyer failed to make the payment, so I have become unpaid seller. But in such a case, you have to tell me, can A exercise a right to lien? Yes or no? With reasons. Can he exercise his right to lien in case of subsale? War finger, you can assume that it is a kind of warehouse in which the goods are lying. Okay. Miss Bibika Belbase is the first one to send the correct answer. No, ma'am, because seller approved this subsale. Excellent. So all of you will write this answer because the seller has given the approval to the buyer for this subsale. Therefore, his right to lien comes to an end. Now he cannot exercise the right to lien on the goods because of seller's approval. The goods were sold further to Mr. C. Sameer Singh, you're wrong in saying yes. No, he cannot exercise his right to lien. Hansika is right. Sonali is right. Saima is right. Harsh, Vivek, Ankit, Mishra, all of you are right. Bala, Sajjan, Lakshmi, you're still landing between what is the meaning of lien. Lien means to take control on the goods, to take the goods back, to keep the goods with yourself. Lien is the legal right given to the seller to keep the goods with himself. Surya Kumar is saying no, ma'am, because goods are lying with B. No, this is the incorrect answer. You will say no, ma'am, because A has given the approval for this subsale. That's why. Lakshita, excellent. Ekta, good. Harsh Agarwal, Masoom, Isha Pandit, Anushka, Janvi, very good all of you. Vaishnavi, Siri Govari, Shyam Kori is asking again, war finger, before the goods are loaded in the ship, the goods are kept in war finger. You can simply remember it's down where the goods are kept. So the goods were still lying in the war finger, but because he has given his approval for this sale, therefore the goods cannot be, lien cannot be exercised. Sahaj Preet Kaur, excellent. If approval was not given, definitely you can exercise your right to lien. Then such a subsale cannot be made by B to C. Okay, so approval given by A is the major word, assent by A is the major word that you have to remember. Thank you so much, Mr. Siddharth Kumar, by writing that all the concepts have become crystal clear. I'm so proud of you. Uzma Seher, you will say seller has approved, not buyer. Chitrang, Siri Govari, Pujar, Ziba, Uzma, Pragya, Arshdeep, correct. समझ आ गया बच्चों. अब इसमें एक और ट्विस्ट है. It says the right to lien and stoppage in transit is not affected by the seller selling or pledging the goods unless the seller has assented. So the general rule is what Sahajpreet just wrote. The general rule is B cannot make the subsale to C. B, buyer, cannot make the subsale to C because A can exercise his right to lien. But where A, अभी आप सबने मुझे आंसर करा मैम, अगर A ने अप्रूवल दिया है, हाँ जी बेटा, if A has given his approval, he has given his assent, then yes, his right to lien will come to an end. So all of you write down, the general rule is any sale, any subsale made by buyer to another buyer. P. Vishnu says topic has become so easy now. Thank you so much. Any subsale made by buyer to a sub-buyer, the seller can exercise his right to lien. But the only exception is if the seller has given his approval or consent for such subsale, if the seller has given his consent or approval for such subsale, then he cannot exercise his right to lien or stoppage in transit. Then he cannot exercise his right to lien and stoppage in transit. Thank you, Isha Pandit and Mr. Sameer Singh. I'm glad to know that. Second point है, first point आपने ये लिख लिया. Second point says the right to stoppage is defeated if the buyer has transferred the document of title to goods or pledged the goods to a sub-buyer in good faith and consideration. पहले यहाँ तक पढ़ेंगे. So it says where I have given the document of title to goods. Remember, document of title to goods are the documents of ownership. So A has given the document of title to the goods to the original buyer B. This B had to go to the railway authorities. Remember the previous examples? This B had to go to the railway authorities and he will show the document of title to goods. The railway authorities will give the goods to B. But before this happened, B sold the goods to C. How did B sold? B endorsed the document of title to goods. He transferred the document of title to goods to C. And now in our example, C will go to the railway authorities and he will collect the goods. Now law says, once the buyer has further transferred my document of title to goods, that means he has made a further subsale or he has pledged the goods. What is the meaning of pledge? Giving the goods as a security. Say, for example, my goods were, first of all, my goods were already parted with me. If I have given my document of title to goods, my right to lien comes to an end because ownership is completely transferred. I have given you the document which shows the ownership. And now if this buyer is further transferring it to Mr. C or he's pledging my goods to a sub-buyer, I cannot exercise my right to stoppage in transit. So number one case where I give the approval for such a sale, I cannot exercise my right to lien and stoppage in transit. Number two case is the case of stoppage in document of title to goods. So where the document of title to goods has been given, in that case also if sub-buyer gets the document of title to goods, I cannot exercise my right of stoppage in transit. ये मैं नहीं कह रही हूँ, law में लिखा है, section 53, 54 में लिखा हुआ है. That is why we cannot exercise the right to stoppage in transit. But एक interesting बात है, वो कहते हैं regarding pledge of goods. Say for example, B ने ये A के goods pledge पे दे दिया और उससे कुछ loan amount दे दिया. In such a case, subject to the rights of pledgee means in such a case, A can still exercise his rights of pledgee. He can go to C and he can tell him that, look, this Mr. B is not giving my payment. Can you please give me my goods back? In case of pledge, A can still take the goods back from the person to whom the pledge has been made. So if the buyer give the goods, document of title to goods given to the sub-buyer, right to stoppage in transit comes to an end. But only in the case of pledge, the difference has been given. The rights of the pledgee will still be available. In that case, A can still go and ask Mr. C for the goods that once your purpose of pledge becomes over, please give my goods back to me. Clear हो गया? अभी एक बारी रिवाइज करेंगे स्टडी से और क्लियर हो जाएगा. Okay, children, the last point, right of resale. Right of resale has two important points. Point number one, where the goods are of perishable nature. And point number two, where the goods are not of perishable nature, means any other type of goods. So perishable goods, I told you, all the eatable, something which can get deteriorate, destroy, or perishable nature are the eatable type of goods. So if I am sending you the apples, it's a perishable commodity. It can get spoiled after a few times. In such a case where I came to know that A is sending 100 bags of apples to Mr. B, and he came to know that B is not going to make my payment, A became unpaid seller, you can simply sell off the goods to someone else. Why? Because the apples will get spoiled. Instead of exercising the right to lien, उनको अपने पास नहीं रखूंगी मैं, I will simply do a resale. And I don't need to give any notice to the buyer for this intention of resale. You will not even give any notice to the buyer. Need not inform the intention to resell means no notice is required to be given to the buyer for such resale. So write down, children, where the goods are of perishable nature means they can get destroyed after a certain period of time. In such a case, where the seller becomes unpaid seller, he can resell the goods without giving the notice to the buyer. Without giving the notice to the buyer. Now, point number 2, however, in all the other cases, notice has to be given to the buyer. So if I'm selling you 10 different tables. I made a contract with you. I made 10 tables for you. And now I've come to know that you are not going to make my payment and I became unpaid seller. So here A will give a notice to buyer B that, look, because you did not make me the payment, I am selling these 10 tables to someone else. So if it is a perishable nature commodity, apple, oranges get rotten, some eatable, some other things, I did not need to give the notice of resale. Any other cases other than non-perishable quantities, I must give a notice to the buyer to resell the goods. What happens if I will not give the notice? Then whatever profit and loss I will get, I will have to share it with the buyer. So let us understand with an example. If I have given the notice, this example is, if I have given the notice to the buyer and within a reasonable time, he fails to pay. So I gave the notice to the buyer, look, Mr. A made 10 tables for Mr. B, buyer, and this is the seller. And he told him that you have not come to collect your 10 tables and you have refused to make me the payment. The goods are still lying with me. And I gave you a notice that please make me the payment within 1 month. And now that reasonable time of 1 month has ended and buyer has still not made the payment. Now what will you do? As a wise man, you will make a resale. Nuksan mein thodi na rahoge, aapne 10 tables banaye, aap seller can recover the money. He can make a resale. Now whatever loss the seller will suffer, he can also recover that loss from this buyer B. Say for example, those 10 tables were to be sold for rupees 100 per table. And now I'm selling it for rupees 70 per table. So I am having a loss for rupees 30 per table. So this loss of rupees 300 for 10 tables, I can recover from Mr. B, the buyer, if I have already given him a notice and he failed to make the payment. If I have not given him in the notice, then obviously I will not recover any loss. यहाँ तो हम बात करें जहाँ मैंने notice दिया था. So if I have given a notice, then also the buyer does not make the payment on time, then whatever loss the seller suffers because of this resale, he can recover it from the buyer. And point number 2 says that if the tables were for rupees 100 per table and I have sold it for 150 per table. So here I have been lucky enough that I got a customer where I got a profit of rupees 50 per table. So this 500 rupees profit will be retained by the seller. Retained means he will not give this profit to anyone else. He will keep the profits with himself. So simple language, resale, 2 points. Perishable commodities, no notice is to be given to the buyer. You can sell the goods. Non-perishable commodities, notice needs to be given to the buyer. If you have given the notice, any loss suffered, you can recover the loss from the buyer. If no loss has been suffered, you have got the profit in the sale, then you can retain that profit. Okay, these are the same points, the conditions to be seen in case of resale. Now, what are the rights available to the buyer? Very important question. You have been asking me, ma'am, what are the rights available to the buyer? Now, children, if the seller refuses to deliver the goods. So you told me in the beginning, in the morning, that, ma'am, when can the buyer exercise his rights? Buyer has the right to exercise remedies against the seller when the seller breaches the contract. When will the seller breach the contract? Either he did not give the goods as per your description, or he did not deliver the goods, or he made a late delivery, whatever thing he did. Buyer, number 1, has the right to sue him for the damages of non-delivery. Now, this damages word is already you have done under section 73 of Indian Contract Act. Hadley versus Baxendale, a very important case law that you have covered under Indian Contract Act. The same way you have to compute the damages, whether it was an ordinary damages, special damages, what was the specific case, all the provisions of Indian Contract Act related to breach of contract damages become applicable to the contract of sale. So here you will simply file a case for the non-delivery. What will the buyer, angry buyer do? A aggrieved party will go to the court. He will say that this person promised to me to deliver the goods by 10th of January. Now 10th of January has lapsed. Please, I want to claim the damages for non-delivery of goods. How he could have suffered the damages? Say A had to deliver the goods to B by 10th of August. And this B has further promised to sell the goods to C. So he had to purchase the goods for rupees 100 and he had to further sell it to rupees 150 to Mr. C. Now, if A did not deliver the goods to B, don't you think he has suffered a loss of rupees 50? Because you have not given me the goods, I could not earn a profit of rupees 50. So this loss of profit will be considered as the damages in the ordinary course of business. Therefore, B can file a suit for recovery of this money. Or he can file suit means filing a case. He can file a suit for specific performance. Or B can go to the court and he can say that this is a particular type of, antique painting which I have ordered from Mr. A, and only A was the seller who is selling this painting. So please, court, you force him to do the specific performance. You ask him to perform this contract. He should deliver me this antique painting for which I have made the contract. So in these special cases, you can also go to the court for asking for the special performance of the contract. Any suit for breach of warranty. What were the 4 cases of warranty? Remember? Undisturbed possession, incumbrances, free from charges, any kind of warranty as to quality and fitness if you are breaching, tradage and custom and trade usage, any kind of warranty if you are breaching, then also the buyer has the right to drag you to the court and sue you for the damages. Repudiation of the contract before the due date. Now, say for example, he had to deliver these goods on 10th of August, and on 5th August only he came to know that he cannot deliver the goods. So repudiation means buyer has the right to end the contract and claim the damages before 10th of August also. So you don't need to wait for the 10th of August, the due date. You can also claim the damages. You will consider it as an anticipatory breach of contract. You will file a case in the court and you will put an end to the contract and recover your damages. And the last one is filing a suit for interest means you can also recover the interest amount. So whatever the amount was due on the payment date and till the date of contract, difference between those 2 dates, interest amount can also be recovered by the buyer for any loss if he has suffered because of non-delivery of goods. Okay, children, I told you rights of buyer are very simple. You can read it from the study material also. One small thing we have left is similar kind of rights are given to the unpaid seller also against the buyer. So if the buyer fails to make the payment and we have utilized all our rights against the goods, after that, he can file a suit for the price. I can take an action against you and you filed a case against me for delivery of goods. I will file a case against you for the price of goods. Even if the property is not passed, even if it was an agreement to sell, I made an agreement to sell with you. You promised me to pay a price. I had another customers. I kept them waiting. Now you're refusing to pay the price. I will file a case against you for the price money. Also suit for damages. I just now told you Indian Contract Act, the same way ordinary damages, special damages can be claimed. जैसे buyer ने अभी damages claim करे, same way में seller भी damages claim कर सकता है. क्योंकि आपने मुझे price नहीं pay करा, मैंने goods की delivery withhold करी, the goods got destroyed or damaged. I could not sell it to another new buyers. I have suffered damages. I can recover those damages from the buyer. Suit for interest. I can also file a suit for interest if my prize money is not paid, and repudiation of contract also had the same meaning. That means if I anticipate that you will not be giving my prize money, I will put an end to the contract and I will recover the damages from the buyer. So children, with this, we come to an end of unpaid seller from my presentation. I know one small topic of auction sale is covered, but before that, many of you are raising queries regarding examples given in your study material. So let us first do that and then we'll see if time left. We'll do auction sale. Otherwise, day after tomorrow, before starting Indian Partnership Act, we will do an auction sale. Don't worry, okay? Thank you, Faizan Pathan. Yes, Ekta, then he can still exercise his right to name. Mr. Sameer Singh, excellent. Sub-sale will also more become easy when we do it from here. Stoppage means, Miss Sanjana, stoppage means to stop the goods while they're in transit. Okay, children, now your homework will be to read the study material. These are the rights which have been given for the unpaid seller. I told you additional right which has been given is of withholding delivery. All the right to lien, stoppage in transit and resale are clear. You should read these examples. These are the same examples. If the check gets dishonor, I become unpaid, I will retain the goods. If cash is not paid, I become unpaid, I will retain the goods. Even when the property has been passed or not passed, I can still exercise my right to lien. This is all which we have discussed in the class today in my presentation. This is again talking about the insolvency case. During his period of credit, very important. So I gave you 1 month credit period. I came to know that you became insolvent only. I can exercise my right to lien on the goods. What were the cases of termination of lien? These were the 4 cases, and this is the case of decree for the price. Even if I have obtained the court's order for the price of goods, then also I can exercise my right to lien. But I told you where document of title to goods has been given. So here railway receipt was taken in the name of B and goods sent to B. Now my right to lien comes to an end. So यहाँ पर लिख लेना वो सब sale वाला point where document of title to goods are being given by seller to buyer. The right to lien comes to an end. I will make sure that they introduce this as a 5th point over here. Where document of title, the goods are sold to the railways for the purpose of transmission has been given. Railway receipt was taken. Now the right to lien comes to an end. ठीक है ना? Right to stoppage in transit. A can stop the goods by giving a notice. This is the case of sub-sale. I told you I cannot allow you to sell the goods. Now those who were asking without say approval. Now B became insolvent. A came to know about A. A can stop the goods in transit by giving the notice to C. So very, very important example number 5. Here we have not taken his consent. Here, any sub-sale being made by B to C, A can recover. He can exercise his right to stoppage in transit by giving a notice to the transporter. So what are the cases where the transit comes to an end? This also we have done, how the stoppage in transit comes to an end. I just wanted to show you that sub-sale point. Here B at Delhi order the goods of A at Mumbai. So A has consigned the goods. They are still lying in B's warehouse. He can still take them back if we have become unpaid seller. So delivery must have reached the buyer. We did this, right? Unless and until the goods have not reached the buyer, I can still exercise my right to transit. So when does transit comes to an end, we have done this also by actually taking notice also. These are very simple points, children. Differences of right to lien and stoppage in transit. Right to lien, if I have the goods. If I don't have the goods, right to stoppage in transit. Here, seller has parted with the goods. There, seller is still having the goods. So both the things. Right to stoppage in transit begins where the right to lien ends. Hai na? As soon as the goods go out of my possession, the right to stoppage also comes to an end. So I'm regaining the possession. Now, this was that seller section 53. Seller's assent has to be obtained. So please read these examples. Here, he can still exercise his right to lien if it is without my permission. But if I have given the consent, A entered into a contract to sell cartons in possession of a war finger to B, and he agreed that the price will pay. So here, A has also agreed that out of the sale proceeds to the customers, I will recover my prize money. So if I have lost, I am not getting the money just because. I hope I'm audible, students. Yes. If you fail to make me the payment, okay, let me just take you again. A entered into a contract to sell cartons in possession of war finger to B. So the same example, we have also written over here that the payment was to be made from the sale proceeds recovered from the customers. So that means 100% the seller has agreed for the further sub-sale. Here my right to lien will come to an end if buyer does not make me the payment. Clear ho gaya? This is the real example of sub-sale. So resale also we have discussed, children. I think we have covered almost all these topics. So now your time for queries. Rights of buyer also we talked about these rights of buyer. These are the examples. Rupees 50 per difference between the contract price and resale price can be recovered as damages. Again, example of Mughal painting. I was talking about antique painting. It's written over here. You can compel A to perform the contract. So only small topic of section 64 is left. I really don't want to do it in a hurry because then you don't understand. Now is your time for queries. If any are still left, I'm here to answer. Harsh Agarwal, when we say that pledge has been given, in that case, he says that rights of the pledgee will still be applicable. In that case, A can go and talk to Mr. C that, look, Mr. B is not making my payment, although I know he has pledged the goods further to you. So once your pledge work is over, security of the goods that has been given, please give my goods back. Yes, Mr. Sarthak said, if you want, you can remember the sections, but never write a wrong section in exam. P. Vishnu, I hope now this pledge point is clear. Yes, Mr. MD, if buyer has become insolvent, the goods are in transit, we can exercise the right to stoppage in transit. Ms. Harnoor Kaur, you can send the notice and you can resell the goods. If loss is there, you can recover it from the buyer. Any profits you can retain. Mr. Samir Singh, if goods are of perishable commodity, you don't need to give any notice to the buyer. No, Mr. Harsh Agarwal, how can you tell the sub buyer to deliver the goods back? This cannot happen. Miss Harnoor Kaur, that is buyer's tension, how you will recover the loss, how he will pay. We don't have to worry in that. Miss Arshdeep, notice has to be given to the buyer, the first buyer. And document of title to goods means ownership. It has nothing to do with bill of supply. Divyanshu Sahu, are you writing something we have not received? Suit for interest means that you are recovering the interest money along with the price. जैसे आपका कोई प्राइस मनी नहीं पे हुआ उसके आप पूरा इंटरेस्ट भी चार्ज कर रहे हो. So from the due date of payment till the payment is made, you can charge interest as well. Pragya Sharma, suit means filing a case. Kunal Jain, notwithstanding, means something apart from this. So if it is written, you cannot explain law in single one word. You have to write the statement which you have not understood. Okay, Kunal? Saima, stoppage in transit means you are asking the goods to be stopped in transit and the goods will come back to you. Arshdeep, we are sending the same query again and again. Thank you, Lakshmi. Yes, I'm glad concepts are clear. MD is also sending the same queries. I've already answered it. Thank you so much, Mr. Shyam Kuri. He says, it's my first day in the class and I understood everything. Thank you so much. Mr. Samir Singh, you can send your doubt again if it is not answered. Thank you, Harsh Agarwal, for no doubts. It's clear. Great. Thank you, Shrindi. I enjoyed the class with you also. Miss Sanjana, we talked about perishable goods. If the goods are already lying with me, I'm anyways exercising the right to lien, but I taught you that instead of keeping the goods with myself, I have decided to resell them because they will get deteriorated. Thank you, Bhumika. Lalit Padi, I told you it is a kind of godown in which the goods are kept. Yes, Surya Kumar, we'll be starting with partnership, but we'll complete option 8 first. Thank you, Regu. Thank you, Bhargavi. Sirigubari sub-sale means when the buyer is further selling the goods to a new buyer. Thank you, Shivangi Ben. Even I enjoyed the class with you. Thank you, Mr. P. Vishnu. That really means a lot. Thank you so much. Miss Vagdevi, specific performance means where I'm specifically asking the code that I need the goods, for example, in that particular antique painting, that only that seller is making that particular painting for me, and now he has refused the delivery. So I went to the code that please request Mr. A to perform this contract, means complete the performance. What is the meaning of performance of contract? That you should give me the delivery and I'll pay you the price. Mr. Regu will do auction sale in the next class. Thank you, Sakaldeep. Thank you, Ishita. Thank you, Manash. Miss Kare Monica, that is a different point, not covered here. Balasajan Lakshmi, I explained you, it is a kind of godown where the goods are kept before they are loaded in the ship. What is Cosilian? Mr. Naman Jain, thank you so much for reminding us about Cosilian. So I told you, children, and another additional right which is available in case of agreement to sell is that you can withhold delivery, means that you will not give the delivery of the goods unless you are sure that the prize money will be paid. Thank you, Lalit Padhi. Duration of transit, Lakshita, means time period during which the goods are in traveling. Thank you, Ms. Viveka. Non-perishable goods, yes, Ms. Uzma Seher, notice has to be given, then only you can recover the loss. Thank you, Mr. Samed. Thank you, Bhargavi. All right, children. Thank you, Mr. Samed Namagur. Thank you, Priyanka. All right, Uzma, I hope non-perishable goods is now clear to you. Thank you so much, children. I think we have cleared all the doubts related to unpaid seller. We'll be starting the next class with auction sale. We'll complete that. As always, I tell you, for the first 10 minutes, I'll take your queries also, any left from sale of goods. And then we'll be starting a new chapter, Indian Partnership Act. So come prepared and revised with the sale of goods. Be free to ask your queries here. And after clearing your queries, auction sale, and we'll start with Indian Partnership. Goodbye. Have a nice day.